And for those joining us, for those who are joining us online, if you would please keep yourself muted unless called upon to speak. The City of Glendale Common Council is now in session. Would everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Kennedy,
Here.
Alderwoman Vukovic, Alderman Doherty,
Here.
Alderman Gelhardt,
Here.
Alderman Bailey,
Here.
Alderman Schmelzling,
Here.
Alderwoman Shaw. Here.
Thank you. First item on our agenda this evening is a public hearing on a request to rezone 6100 North Green Bay Avenue. This item has already been to the Plan Commission. There was already a hearing there. The Plan Commission has sent it back to the Common Council, and tonight we are having our hearing. This is to rezone the parking lot parcel behind Hobbs Honda so that it is from a planned development, because it was done as a planned development as part of the apartment complex, to be rezoned to a B4 Office Research Service Business District, which is how the Hobbs Honda location is already zoned. So I'm going to ask Mr. Fellows if you've got anything you want to report or anything you want to add to the presentations we've already had before I open the hearing.
I'll just, let me think here. I think you actually summed it up pretty well. So I'll let you open up the hearing, and then if there's specific questions, either I or someone from the Redmond Company can answer them specifically.
All right, thank you. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. This is on a request to rezone 6100 North Green Bay Avenue. The tax key number is 161-803-5000. It's the parcel that is the overflow parking for the new cars behind Hobbs Honda, sort of the east of Hobbs Honda or south of the apartments that were built where Dove Nursing Home was. So I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this agenda item? Yes, ma'am. You'll need to come up to the microphone, state your name and address. And when you're speaking, make sure you speak directly into the microphone. Otherwise, anybody watching on the Zoom can't hear you.
My name is Tina Kaiser, and I live at 6101 North Bridgewood Lane. So I'm probably the house that is going to be affected most by the building and the rezoning. And I had spoken to Mr. Fellows probably about a month ago and asked to request whether Honda can put in some evergreen trees on their side of the fence, because we live in a peaceful neighborhood and there's going to be a lot of noise. And with cars moving further back towards our side, alarms are going off all the time. I'm really concerned about the extra noise.
Okay, thank you. I actually have a question, because there are several overflow car lots around your property. Are they utilizing the alarms to locate cars? Because
I've heard them, and so has my neighbor who's here with me, yes.
Because we have sent repeated letters to the car dealerships that they are not allowed to do that because it disrupts neighbors. Because I know Heiser has an overflow lot back there, Mercedes has an overflow lot back there, the Hobbs lot is there, Kia's got an overflow lot. They're all basically right adjacent to the street that you live on. Okay, so I will have staff draft another letter. Maybe this time it should come from me to those dealerships that they're not to be using those. In terms of the other questions you've raised, we have not gotten plans yet on what the new building will look like, but we will certainly, Mr. Fellows, I know, so I was taking some notes there. So we will make sure that we work with them on their development plans for the new building they eventually want to build, to make sure that there's additional landscaping and more shielding of their property from the neighbors.
Okay, and then my other question is, how will this affect the rezoning? How will it affect like 5 years from now? I mean, what else could they request to do with this rezoning?
So right now, that property, as part of the planned development, was to be overflow parking for new cars. This would incorporate it as the same zoning as the dealership. We haven't seen yet the footprint for the new building that they want to build. And so I can't say more than that, except the water retention pond does separate them from from your street. That water, the stormwater drainage pond can't go anywhere. I mean, that was DNR approved. It's there to stay. It's required to have that for that property. So any building they do is going to probably be closer to the street, and this will probably continue to be just overflow parking for cars.
Okay. And my concern is just because, you know, we want to retire here, so we don't want a bunch of noise coming
Yeah.
through.
I hear you.
Mhm.
And I'm sorry that, you know, the first thing you talked about was the noise of the alarms going off. And like I said, we've been very clear with the car dealerships in the past, and we'll follow up with all of them in the area to make sure that that's not happening. Yeah, Alderman Doherty.
I had a question of you. Is lighting an issue too?
Yes,
Yeah. That's the noise and lighting are the two things I have heard, and that's my concern.
the
too.
lights are extremely bright.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can also work with them on their redevelopment plan that they utilize different lighting that reflects away from or shines away from the homes behind. Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Yes, ma'am. And if you would state your name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Lisa Church and I live across from the Kaisers. I am at 6100 North Bridgewood Lane. I think the car alarms, it seems to be better. I'm a big gardener. It used to be Ford, that was all the time. So, but it's still there. She hears, you know, she's closer to it. One of my main concerns is the lighting is garish. The parking lot lights are brighter than the street lights and taller. And now with no screenage, it goes right through our house and it all goes to the parkway. So I know people on the parkway who hate the lighting. So it's too extreme. So they said it would be low. I mean, if it were lower to the ground, I think there would be less, you know, bleeding out, but it's really bright. And so it's upsetting to me because every time you look out. So there's that. And then I have concerns just, you know, what the building is going to be because, you know, we live on a dump. And so Bridgewood Lane was largely remediated by the EPA. My entire yard was dug up. I know that the berm along there's a path between the end of the cul-de-sac to the city hall, and that berm is full of trash. And you know, it's got a barrier, but that is also refuse. The apartment structure, you know, the new apartments on the foundation, that was on brownfield. And so they had to stick to the footprint. So I'm wondering what makes this area that is surrounded by contaminated soil, what kind of protections are we going to have? I believe when they put in that parking lot, there was an open dirt and dust. And so I have concerns that there was possibly, you know, contaminated dust around the neighborhood. So I think that needs to be tested or something needs to be done so that we are protected from contaminated dirt. It is, you know, it's you know, it's a lot of lead and possibly other contaminants too. Because I think there was some arsenic in one or two lots. So I'd feel better knowing that they were going to do something for that. In terms of like the greenery, you know, we were told that Honda put some trees on the other side of the fence. As a gardener, if they have not been watering or maintaining those, I'm pretty sure those would be dead. We're in a 1.5 year long drought. So we haven't seen any greens poke over the fence. So it would be really nice to see a little bit of landscaping that's more substantial. Personally, I would be interested in also Glendale doing something to help shield us from that ugly lot. Glendale does not maintain the lot. It's full of burdock some years. And there were down trees. So it's an eyesore. Like, you know, I actually did a neighbor complaint on the city of Glendale because it was unkempt. I would actually be willing to help. Like I could pick a tree, we could have everybody dump their leaves on that lot and we could, you know, put some trees that grow really tall, some evergreens. I could recommend some. and, or even do a fund, fund some money, but like, I would love to see that. Although that land is, there's a lot of trash at the surface too. So I don't know, we'd have to, I would recommend, putting dirt or if everyone just, if Glendale dump leaves there for a few years, we could pop a tree in there. I think that would really help because it's just ghastly. It looks like an abandoned lot. So, and it's hard for them to mow. I think it's really uneven because, so, yeah, I'd really like to see those. And I don't really understand the plan, like where the, I haven't had time to follow the details and it sounds like they're coming, but like, where is the building going to be? And, just how it will be done. I'd be curious. Lastly, sometimes they, it's not often, it's, in the summer, I'm outside all the time, but sometimes you can hear, and I do think it's Honda. Because, and they call over the intercom. And, I'm across the street, I'm not right next to them and you can still hear them call people to the office or like, so-and-so, and so I don't think that should be happening in a residential area. So I think that's all.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thanks for listening.
Sure. Like I say, we haven't seen plans either. So in
Mhm.
terms of answering that question, none of us can answer that.
Yeah.
In terms of the lighting, though, I'm going to ask Mr. Fellows, can you follow up this week and see with the plan development, the lighting plan that was approved to make sure that that what they currently have is conforming to what we approved? Because I know this was a concern when that was built, 4 years ago or so. So, and then the last thing you mentioned, you're concerned about the contamination and dust and things. The DNR will have to approve any plans.
Mhm.
This particular area, because it's a former landfill, the DNR had to sign off on even how those apartments were built. The
Yeah,
reason that
yeah.
they scraped the nursing home and kept the original foundation of the nursing home and built the apartments on using the exact same
Yep.
footprint was because they couldn't dig.
Right.
And so, this particular property being adjacent, I'm sure we'll have to undergo similar kind of scrutiny from the DNR.
On a little nature note, now with that, now I actually finally understand that there's a pond. I know there's a dip. Sometimes we kind of explore, we ski back there. So there's a dip. I don't think that's the retaining pond because it's outside of the fence. But like the retaining pond is just full of frogs. And so it's kind of cool that even with the loss of the woods, I guess it shows the importance of wetlands because I'm hearing much more diversity in birdsong that we didn't have before. And frogs are at risk. So it was kind of a cool trade-off to at least have that. So I'm really glad we have those required. Thanks.
Alderman Doherty, do you-
I would ask the city to take a look at the city lot, right? That's to the south of of this property and to the east. That's the area you talk about, Lisa, where it's just been messy forever. Okay, I think we should look at that because there was some paths through there that were heading to the city and things have changed since some of this has been put in. But the question is what is our long-term plan with that and can we improve it?
And I would be willing to be part of that.
You,
discussion. I love that stuff.
You've always been a very good sport about that. So thank you for all your good citizenry on that. Thank you.
I'll coordinate with Charlie tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. And actually, that could be in the future, that particular parcel might be one we consider utilizing for our leaf mulching that we do every fall. Currently, we do it in conjunction with Whitefish Bay over adjacent to the park, but that could be an area that we consider doing our leaf mulching from there. Okay.
I think while you're talking, looking at lighting and see if it fits that, I think we should also look at like the paging and things like that. Even if they didn't go with another property, does the paging need to be blasting in general sense, or could it be directional back at, where they're trying to run that? I
would
don't know
hope
what the
with-
noise requirements
With
are.
new technology. I would hope that with a new building and new technology, there'd be something other than the big,
Yeah, could they just
30-year-old
page the people's phones or
paging,
something
yeah.
and get rid of this? right?
I don't know, it's not walkie-talkies, but some other kind of device that might just page.
Because those are kind of ongoing issues, right? Whether it's trying to get alarms.
Building
going,
was built in
whether-
the 70s, and I think that intercom technology
It
is
should
probably
be.
with
the
original to the
70s,
building.
yeah.
And Greg put a taller fence in, Hobbs did a bunch of things that were responsible. So I think he's very approachable on that, but and I'd be happy to be part of that too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Coordinate with them.
Anyone else wishing to speak in the public hearing about the rezoning? Not seeing anyone in the chambers. I'll ask, is there anyone attending the meeting virtually who would like to speak? If so, you may unmute and state your name and address. All right, second call. Is there anyone wishing to speak in the public hearing? And third and final call, anyone wishing to address the mayor and council on the rezoning of 6100 North Green Bay Avenue? All right, seeing no one wishing to be recognized, I would entertain a motion from a member of the council to close the public hearing.
So move.
Moved by Alderman Doherty. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Gelhard. All those in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The public hearing is now closed. We have been presented with an ordinance that rezones 6100 North Green Bay Avenue. This particular ordinance, it comes as a result of this issue being sent to the Plan Commission. The Plan Commission held a public hearing. Plan Commissioner sent it back to the Common Council. We've now held a public hearing. We have had in total input from 2 residents who did raise some concerns. Those concerns will be addressed by staff as we look at future development. But at this point, we do have before us an ordinance that would rezone the property from a planned development to a B4 Office Research Service Business District. And could I get a motion to approve the ordinance?
So moved.
Moved by Alderman Doherty. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Schmelzling. Any further discussion from members of the council? All right, all those in favor of approving the ordinance, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries the ordinance. Right.
Staff report, there's 2 motions in that staff report. One was for the ordinance. Then there's the planned development district. It has to be amended as the parcel's being taken out. So there was an amendment drafted by our attorney for that.
Oh, got it. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. So also, can I get a motion then to approve the amendment to the development agreement for the PD district, removing 6100 North Green Bay Road from the documents, please?
So moved.
Moved by Alderman Bailey. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Gelhard. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Fellows. Appreciate that. All right, the next item then for consideration tonight is the public comment portion of our meeting. This is the portion of the meeting where Glendale residents, business owners, and property owners are invited to speak to the mayor and council on items that are not on tonight's agenda, but are within the city's ability to regulate or control. Is there anyone wishing to speak to a non-agenda item? Good.
I would, yes,
We've got 2 of you. So Chris, I'll come right back to you.
no
Got
problem. Thank
somebody
you.
in the chamber first. Yep. If you could state your name and address, please.
Kathleen Carey, 5711 North Crestwood Boulevard. I've lived in my humble little ranch on Crestwood for 31 years. So I've seen the changes in funding and what the DPW does in our neighborhood that they didn't do before. And for the last couple of years, I have seen no one come and clear out the boulevard like used to be done. In the spring, they would come and clear out all the weeds, take away any dead plants. That hasn't been done in a while. And right now, in my section of the boulevard, there are 3 dead trees, rather tall dead trees. So I'm curious what will happen when they go down. There's also where the bridges go over on Kendall and Arbor and Crest and Raleigh, you can't even see the creek because there's so much overgrowth of weeds and everything that you don't even know it's there. So I understand that there've been budget cuts, but it would be great if somebody could come in there and do something or identify plants that should be taken out. I'd be happy to do that, but it looks awful right now. So,
Also dangerous for driving.
oh yeah, I know that.
I made a left. I was heading on Crestwood Drive and had to make a turn to go over to Argyle and
Mhm, mhm.
I couldn't see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep, well
Yeah.
aware of that. Usually in the spring, they'll come and trim that back a little bit, but, and I know they did it this spring, but I haven't seen anybody other than that, so.
Carl, you want to follow up with Charlie?
And just one other comment, speaking of dangerous driving, Crestwood, is one of the longer blocks in that little, so we go from Marne to Silver Spring with one stop sign. I was out on Saturday when the weather was nice. I saw an SUV come down Crestwood, blow right through the stop sign, get stopped at Silver Spring, which I thought was ironic that he sped all that way to get stopped at the stoplight at Silver Spring. But then shortly after that, two more cars almost side by side racing with each other down Crestwood. When they got to Silver Spring, they turned right. And so I realized there's nothing we can do, but I was stunned to see two incidents within half an hour of each other on a Saturday afternoon.
Curious, was the black SUV maybe slightly older and black?
It was a silver SUV.
Okay. Because I saw similar stuff on Bethmar also happening,
Yeah. So,
but it was maybe a 8 or 10-year-old black, large SUV
yes.
was flying down my street and actually blew right through the stop sign at Como. So,
Yeah.
okay.
A lot of times if I see cars speeding, and don't look like they're going to stop, I will step out, not into the street, but out to the side so they can see that I'm watching them. Sometimes they slow down,
You
sometimes.
should
they
go
don't.
like this next
I
time.
know. Yeah. So thank you.
Okay, yep, thank you. Appreciate your comments. Chris, go ahead. If you'd state your name and address, please.
Chris Hemmerly, 6881 North Ironwood Lane. I'd like to know if City of Glendale would consider moving Halloween, the official trick or treating times, to something where the kids could, have some nighttime as part of Halloween. I recognize that, there's safety concerns and whatnot, but growing up, I never had any issues. I don't know anyone that had any issues. And I'd just like it to be an option, right? So from 1 to 4, there's no chance of there being any darkness. I was thinking something along the lines of 4 to 7. I'd prefer it be on Halloween, but I'm willing to wiggle on that. Like if it needs to be on a weekend, I'm fine with that as well.
Thank you, Chris. So the 19 municipalities in Milwaukee County have all agreed on that Sunday, the Sunday prior to Halloween from 1 to 4. That being said, within Glendale, we do have several of our neighborhood associations that do one on Halloween night. They coordinate that with the police department. So I would actually encourage you to talk with your neighbors. We don't have a prohibition against a neighborhood deciding to do it at a different time, but you'll need to coordinate that with the PD. As I said, a number of our neighborhood associations do. In terms of, we're kind of locked into a long-term agreement with the other 19, with the other 18 municipalities in the county. I think through 2026 or 2027, we've approved the Sunday from 1 to 4. That's when Milwaukee does it. That's when Oak Creek does it. That's when West Allis does it. I mean, we all do it at the same time. But like I said, if you have a group of neighbors that want to do trick or treating at a different time, you can coordinate that with the clerk's office and the police department.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep, thank you. Yeah, you want to come up to the microphone? So I will just add, Chris. So the neighborhoods 1 to 4 is the official time. So if you choose to do it at a different time, you will see trick or treaters from 1 to 4 on Sunday. And then again from, whenever your neighbor, your group of neighbors decides you want to do it, if you want to do it on Halloween night. So.
Understood.
Yeah.
Thank you
Okay.
for the clarification.
Sure. And just because it's being recorded, state your name and address again.
My name is Lisa Church and I live at 6100 North Bridgewood Lane.
Mhm.
So I live at the end of the cul-de-sac that joins Bender between Milwaukee River Parkway and Green Bay Avenue. And there's some traffic calming that I think needs to happen. We've had some car chases and I noticed all the lighting now on that intersection of Bender and Milwaukee River Parkway. And I know a lot of people are resistant to change. So I'm not sure how much my neighbors will appreciate me for promoting this, but there's a pretty big space there. And I think a traffic circle would be helpful there because you couldn't tear through that. Also, if we come north out of Bridgewood Lane and try and turn left on Bender, it can be very difficult to the point where I might avoid it and just go right and then go through the parkway and then turn left to Green Bay, especially during peak traffic times. And if there were a roundabout, I could do the roundabout and then just use that as a mechanism to turn left. Also with the new apartments being developed on the north side of Bender, I think that can increase traffic. And right now, the construction on Port Washington is siphoning increased traffic. So I think for safety and just traffic calming, someone brought up, what about school buses? And I think it could be done. I'm not an engineer, but they get around our little cul-de-sac, although barely sometimes. So I'd like people to look at that. I think probably education needs to be done for people who haven't traveled to places where they're common. But the argument I hear people say is like, well, people are just blowing through red lights. I mean, those are so deadly. And that could, I've had some close calls at Milwaukee River Parkway in Bender. It's been, no one knows when to go, So another little traffic thing is, if you go south on Milwaukee River Parkway, past Silver Spring, and when it splits and goes right or left to Hampton, I wish the sign would tell northbound traffic from the west side that oncoming traffic does not stop. Because sometimes they stop at the stoplight, but if you're southbound, you don't stop. So, but they assume you do sometimes. And so it'd be very easy to avoid a potentially bad T-bone accident to have a sign saying southbound traffic does not stop. So I don't know who to say that to, but I think about it every time I go through there, and there's this weird.
That would be a request to county parks, and we can
Okay.
follow up with them that we want to increase the signage there for safety. And then I want to assure the members of the council that I did not plant Lisa in the audience. I sent them this week information about roundabouts. I am a
Oh.
huge proponent of them at this point. The city of Carmel, Indiana, with 100,000 people, by the end of next year, will have only one stoplight in the entire city. Traffic flows at about 30 miles an hour and never stops anywhere. You don't waste time sitting at stoplights. It is greener. It saves, you can actually make narrower lanes, bring down the speeds, and the traffic continue to move everywhere. There are no stoplights. I am a huge proponent. So, and that's why I wanted to tell them, I did not plant you in the audience to say that, but I agree with you. They're one of the best means of traffic calming, and I know a lot of folks don't like them because they're not used to them. But, if a city of 100,000 people can do away with all of its stoplights and become a greener city, one that has very few traffic accidents, I think it's something that we should look at for a long-term plan. So thank you for saying that.
Less dangerous accidents, if
Yes.
there is one.
Yeah.
And then I have a question. I live by a lot or a home, and they have so many dead trees on it, or almost dead, like 70% dead. There's a row like along the power lines. I think I call We Energies, and they're going to be really hard to remove, but we're putting up a shed. We got approved for a shed, and it's like right under these dead trees. There's a huge ash that's like 80% dead. What is the policy on following up on homes that are not removing hazardous trees? And we live on a high voltage wires. We're on one of the big ones. And so these like 8 evergreens are like 10 feet from.
So we would need to know, so if it is actually a residential property,
Mhm.
then on the city's website, there is a property maintenance complaint form that you can fill out, and then staff will follow up with them to make sure that their property is brought into compliance. However, if it's in the We Energies right of way, then we're already not very friendly with We Energies right now anyway, as a city, having filed a number of complaints against them with the Public Service Commission. They are supposed to be doing significant trimming. So if it's in the We Energies right of way, then that's something more we can follow up with We Energies.
We cleaned up the box elder, in the
Sure.
vacant lot that is, going to be built after he retires, south of us. But these are really big pine trees that,
Okay.
when they go, they're going to bring down. a
Yeah,
lot.
if you want to follow up, if
Sure.
you want to, with Carl, just make sure he's aware of the property, and then he can work with staff and see if we need, if
Okay.
it's.
Through
We
that
Energies.
portal on the website.
Yeah, or actually, if
Okay.
you want to just, before you leave, make sure you Carl's email. Okay, thank you.
If I can mention one more thing in regards
Go ahead, Chris.
to roundabouts. Two more excellent locations for roundabouts would be Green Tree and River Road, and also Green Tree and Jean Nicolai.
Sorry about my mute. Green Tree and Jean Nicolay would actually be in the Village of River Hills. That's just outside of Glendale by maybe 100 feet. So, all right, but thank you, appreciate that. All right, anyone else for public comment? Okay, our consent agenda has 3 items: some minutes for our last meeting, approval of the monthly reports to be placed on file, and a request for extended holiday hours at Kohl's and Target. As you know, the first request comes to us. Once we approve extended hours, then the rest of the time, any other requests are just handled by staff. But we do initiate the first request, and we did get 2 from Kohl's and Target. So can I get a motion to adopt the consent agenda? Moved by Alderwoman Shaw, seconded by Alderman Doherty. Without objection, we will consider the consent agenda approved. Not seeing any objection, we will move on.
I have one question.
Yes.
I read the letters. I just want to verify that, yes, they will be indeed paying for the extra safety measures from the police department.
Yeah, it's a requirement.
I just wanted to make sure, even though I did read it, I just wanted to confirm.
Yep. Yeah, extended hours, we approve it as sort of the first case, and then after this, they just work with the clerk and the PD. Yep. But yes, they are required. Nope. All right, new business. We have several items before us. The first is, I guess, sort of the final stages here of a request to redevelop 7575 North Port Washington Road. So we have before us a specific development plan for a planned development that would demolish a current gas station and build a new convenience store and gas station at 7575 North Port Washington Road. So first the specific development plan and then the development agreement are both on here. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Fellows if there's anything you want to add.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen.
And this also has already been to the Plan Commission. We've already been through the rezonings, everything. So this is the final step, I believe.
This particular project, as you're aware, is on the southwest corner of Calumet and Port Washington Road. You've seen it before, so has the Planning Commission. Essentially a gas station convenience store with a canopy and some parking. So I was just going to bring up their site plan here just for reference. And that's why
Muted.
Right, it did get muted. So this is generally the layout. You have the canopy here, some parking in front, convenience store. There is some diesel gas pumps in the back. There currently are 4 entrances. There'll be only 2 to Calumet as well as 1 onto Port Washington Road. They do have a fence that's going to, and a landscaping plan to provide a buffer to the neighbors to the west. The trash enclosure will match the building. And they've resubmitted a landscaping plan. There are some conditions within the report with regard to stormwater. They plan on updating the stormwater plan prior to permits.
That's not under our purview anyway. We require them to comply with the DNR requirements, but as long as the DNR signs off on it.
Correct. It's something
Okay.
they have to do
Okay.
before they can get their permits. Sometimes the developers have a stormwater plan that's everything's in order. In this case, there's a few things that they still need to correct, and then it will be reviewed by Clark Dietz, and then they'll approve it and we can move forward. But those conditions are in the report. I just wanted to advise why they. And if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. The applicant's also here.
Okay. And I know there were a couple questions that did come up with the Plan Commission. Those have all been addressed.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, so open up the members of the council. Alderman Gelhardt.
They're not planning to store boats there, are they?
No, no storage of boats, and the development agreement, which is your next item, actually says no rental trucks or vehicles and things like that. So just gas station items. The development agreement does allow for some outdoor storage like the propane tanks or seasonal displays within a certain confined area, but
Bags of ice, stuff like that. that are often-
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That does break a 20-year tradition, but.
I mean, well, the applicants here, maybe they'd like to, you'd want to keep the boat.
All right, any other questions from members of the council? Alderman Schmelzing, go ahead.
Maybe it's related but not specific to this. I'm just curious, what's really the trend with electric vehicles and charging stations and things like that? Because I noted that wasn't part of this plan. Curious if that's more happening like at the whack across the street when people are working out, they just charge there instead of at gas stations or filling stations?
So I did have a conversation with the applicant about that in terms of, from that perspective, either by his choosing or maybe it's BP. They're not moving that particular direction. I know I did have a conversation with another gas station owner, and their flag brand actually is starting to have actually electric charging stations at gas stations because they realize that they need them. From some perspective, it's not so much the gas, it's having the electric charging station at the on the property actually then still can brings people into the store to buy their milk or all those types of things. So I think you're going to probably start to see more charging stations at gas stations in the future. The applicants here, if you want to, maybe they might want to answer the question of why they don't have the charging stations, but I don't want to assume for them.
It's not specific to this, but it was more just a market question. So, but if you want to answer, I'd be happy to hear if there was a consideration there.
So the applicant is represented today by their real estate person and their engineer. I don't think
Okay.
either of them are prepared to answer that.
Okay, so thank you. Yeah, I guess that makes sense because if you're gonna bring people into, hit the quickie mart, so to say, and
Mhm.
run inside, then you can just plug in for a few minutes. Thank you.
All right, any other comments or questions from members of the council? Yep, Alderman Shaw.
Actually, to fellows, when you're doing your presentation piece, I thought I heard you say there were 4 entries into the parking or into
Currently.
their. Oh, currently.
Currently are 4, so they're reducing, currently there's, let's see if I can get this to move. Oh,
So they're gonna go down to 3 then.
there currently are 2 entrances onto Port Washington Road, one very close to the intersection. So through the process of going with, through the review with the DOT, it was too close to the intersection. It would have been, it's like sort of right here. I think you can see my cursor. So that entrance was closed. And then the other entrances are all being more formalized with actual curbs and things like that. So it'll be a little bit more clear where people should enter and exit.
I didn't hear you say currently, so that's why I wanted to verify because I only see 3. So thank you.
All right, not seeing any other hands, any other comments. We have 2 motions we need to make. The first would be that we approve the specific development plan in the plan development for 7575 North Port Washington Road. Can I get a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Moved by Alderman Gelhardt. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman. Any further discussion? All in favor of approving the specific development plan, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Okay, the next item then is the approval of the development agreement, which does then take the specific development plan and put it all into words and requirements and everything. So we had a lengthy agreement here. So can I get a motion to approve the development agreement for the plan development at 7575 North Port Washington?
So moved.
Moved by Alderman Gelhardt. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Schmelzling. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. All right, the next item now is a recommendation from the Plan Commission to the Common Council for the certified survey map for 6100 North Green Bay. We did just approve the rezoning a little while ago. Now that it's all zoned the same thing, I guess there's a proposal for us to create this as one certified survey map as one property. All right, can I get a motion to adopt the CSM, please?
So moved.
Moved by Alderman Doherty. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Gelhardt. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of approving the CSM, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, and one last final item, and that's just sort of an update or status on where we are with the 2021 financial audit. As I think you all know, we were a little behind and we were supposed to be caught up by now. Carl, I know it falls on you because you're the city administrator, but you've been here like 4.5 months. But the reason I asked for this on here is we are borrowing on behalf of the fire department, probably in January or February, for the demolition and reconstruction of the Glendale Fire Station. And so I just wanted to find out where we are in terms of the 2021 audit, because the audit would need to be complete. And then we need to get a bond rating before we can go out on the market and borrow on behalf of the North Shore Fire Department. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Warwick.
So thank you, Mayor. I'll do my best here. This is not my area of expertise, but I will provide an update on the 2021 audit status. As you know, we completed the 2020 audit sometime in August and have been working to finalize the 2021 audit since then. Obviously, in order to get the budget ready, we had to have pretty final numbers for the 2021 actuals. So we've been working on it towards that. The portal has been set up to submit all the documents to our audit or our audit firm. So that has been done and we are working on submitting some of those documents. Our goal is to submit every single document initially to the audit firm by Thanksgiving. The goal then is to have everything finalized by early January and have it approved and reviewed by the city council also in January of 2023. So we feel that this is in time and enough time to borrow the money for the new fire station building, which the bid opening just occurred last week, in order to borrow all the money and have our audit done. Unfortunately, it won't be done from what we feel before January 1st, but we feel immediately following January 1st, the 2021 audit will be done.
So I did reach out to our auditor last week with an email that he replied back to me at 4:11 this afternoon. So, and he said that for the audit to be completed by December 31st. So that's not the paper copies in hand and him coming to report to us, but for him to have the audit completed by December 31st. If he had everything to him and available for testing, the latest would be 11/15/22. So if you're able to work with staff to bump that up by a week instead of Thanksgiving, if you could have it moved to the middle of November, they could still have it done by the end of December. And probably sometime by the end of January, we'd actually have the audit reports to us. And maybe our last meeting in January is when we'd see, Jake here to do his report. So
Definitely do that.
okay, thank you. And my concern is we've got 6 other communities that are relying upon us to be able to do the borrowing. So,
What was midnight on the 15th?
yes.
Just like to have it exactly set.
Yeah, and I'm actually forwarding.
Central Standard Time.
Yeah, 11:59 on the 15th. Yeah. So I just forwarded that email to you. So,
Thank you.
yep. All right, any other questions or anything? No, thank you for the update. All right, next item is commission, committee, board and staff reports. I guess I'll start with staff. Carl?
I have nothing else tonight.
Thank you. Nathan?
Nothing to report.
All right, chief?
We have our on-site accreditation on-site on November 15th through 17th. I was going to let you know at your next meeting, but that'd be the day before. So we'll have some 3 on-site assessors here for 3 days going through that. We'll have a public session. So if anybody wants to make comments, we'll make that available in a little while. But this is our 6th on-site accreditation. We have been accredited since 2006, and we are very hopeful that we will be continuing on the accreditation path. So
Thank you.
Could I speak on one thing real quick, Mayor? So I forgot to mention, as we probably all know, Port Washington Road is closed. It will be closed through next week, and it most likely will be extended by an additional 3 days. We Energies just got approval from the railroad company to do their boring underneath the railroad, which would extend it 3 days. We feel that's a priority to give them those 3 days rather than bring them back another 3 days in the spring and close it down for 3 more days. So We had hoped to have it done by Monday, but it's probably going to be Wednesday, maybe into Thursday until it's complete.
Other this week and then at least first part of next week.
That is correct. And we've actually distributed information already this morning to residents in the area to let them know.
All right, thank you. Madam Clerk?
In-person absentee voting starts tomorrow.
All right. And the rules haven't changed in the last 12 minutes? This has been the craziest year because Megan has had so many changes. Like, it seems like every week there's a different ruling from the Election Commission. My hat's off to any municipal clerk in the state. You've been incredibly patient with the state, so. All right, we'll start around, I think I'll start this time with 6.
Unfortunately, I couldn't make it to the library board meeting last week, Thursday. I had to be at work early. So I'm not sure what developed, and Rhonda's not here, and I don't believe Carl had an opportunity to go either. But just as an FYI, Music in the Glen will be having its kickoff meeting on November 16th. And I know I'm going to ask for some additional people to come on and request one individual to render her resignation since she hadn't been involved at all this past year.
If you can work that out and just send me your recommendations and we'll put it on a future agenda item. All right, thank you. 5?
Couple things on 4th of July also, we're getting to that time, then we'll have to start thinking about it. Much like our audit, we're waiting to get the books closed on our 4th of July event. It's a little bit beyond the 4th, but we'll continue to wait on that. But the key is we do have to establish how we're going to move forward with the budgets and such. We do have some funds that are coming towards, I should say not funds, but some fireworks will be getting back next year. So fireworks for 14,000, we get about 10,000 back that we can utilize. The rest was insurance and staff time and transportation of it that we don't get back. So yeah, so that's my quick update, and I'll be looking to see if anyone else wants to step up and lead that activity.
Nothing to report.
3.
Nothing to report this evening.
Number 2.
Nothing to report tonight.
Number 1. Anything happened at you went to the League of Wisconsin Municipalities, right? You was speaking to the microphone.
I got there on Wednesday night. Got there Wednesday night, so I only was there for the festivities on Thursday. Went to a small city, the small city congregant bunch of people. But the one thing that each city has, and one thing that people keep talking about, is number one, shared revenue and the budget surplus. How is it going to get down to the cities? And that's including Milwaukee. Also, I did make a gripe with the board, because even though the biggest portion of their dues are paid by Milwaukee County, they have one representative in Milwaukee County now. When I was on, there was 4. Now there's only 1, and that's the automatic person, which is what's her name? Jocasta.
City of
Zamboree.
Milwaukee gets an
Yes.
automatic seat.
Right, but with all these decisions and all the legislation that's going on that will affect Milwaukee County the most, we keep putting our funds there, but the board doesn't, and anything that they're lobbying or anything that they're doing is not really, no one is there to really talk about this area. So I have suggested to them that they start looking at, for new board members, looking at Milwaukee, looking at surrounding areas, looking at the diversity of the board. Because again, it's, it used to be diverse, now it's back to what it used to be. Thank you.
It was such a political saying that it's an all-white board right now.
No, Joe Costa's on.
Okay, almost an all-white board. All right. And I don't have anything to report today, so. All right, nothing else on our agenda. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Alderwoman Vukovic, second by Alderwoman Shaw. All in favor of adjourning, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We stand adjourned.
Talk to the mayor.